Leaders who lead with love never lose. It's always a win-win, and we're in it to win it.
And while we're on that, I know I was going to take a different direction, but something that came to me, you mentioned it briefly in the beginning, and a lot of Christians try to run away from politics, and they take it like it's not something that Christians should really go into, or like seriously put their heart and soul and time into. And you as a Christian and a believer, a minister, talk to us about how significant and how important it is actually for a Christian to be involved in politics and to be actively involved in social justice.
Absolutely. Once again, Jesus was about justice. So I'll start there for all the other Christians or Christians who believe that there should be separation of, church and state, who believe that the church should not have any involvement in government. I want to just rewind, especially whether you're in South Africa, whether you are in America, it was usually our faith leaders who led the movement. Whether it was apartheid, who led the movement, the civil rights, the voting rights, it was the faith leaders who actually led those movements. So all we have to do is just go back a couple of years in history. But even further than that, all throughout the Bible, and the number one theme and thread throughout the Bible is love. That's the one thing that we see all throughout.
And leadership as well.
If you love me, you'll keep my commandments, right? Or if you say that you're a Christian or a Christian, or you follow Christ and you're a disciple of Christ, then you follow his lead. But we see politics, whether it's Moses, right? Moses, you see Moses involved in politics. He was a part of a family, but that was a political movement.
There was actually a movement that is involved.
It was a political movement, I'm talking about in the early days of his life. But then when you go to where the Pharaoh, that was political. He had to use politics. Think about it. When he raised the rod and he did that, all that was politics. We can go to the prophets. It was politics. Politics were always involved. There were kings, right? Or queens. Politics. You look at Paul. Most of the reason why he spent a lot of time in jail was because of the politics of the day, whether it was a religious So we can't avoid, or we can't say or use for an excuse that it's not the church's responsibility to get involved in politics. Not only that, but I try to, enlighten people. Like, some people don't understand how politics affects policy. Policy is the laws that govern nations. I'll give you an example. Mass incarceration, right, is a policy. It's an American policy. We imprison more people than anywhere else in the world. But this is the land of freedom. This is the place people want to come. You know what I'm saying? Come to America on vacation, leave on probation.
I've never heard of that one. That's a good one.
You come here seeking milk and honey, but the policies, when you look at some of the policies that have been created, and some of them have been intentionally to impact, I'll say this, the African American community specifically. You look at mass incarceration. You look at. And when you look at the Bible, and for some Christians who might be listening to us right now, say, that they must have done something wrong. Okay, well, not everybody in prison is actually guilty. And we have to look at it. And even if they are, it's one of the things Jesus said that we're supposed to do. When he quoted from Isaiah, we're to visit those who are incarcerated. Remember when he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me"? And think about that. I'll just give you this little quick brief history. Just about every major leader in the Bible either committed a crime or they were in prison for their crime. Let's just go down the list.
It's
Moses.
true. That's true. That's true.
Remember Moses? He committed murder, and then he went
and then he hid.
Conspiracy to commit murder. Remember when he sent the guy to war because he wanted Bathsheba? Remember?
Yeah, David. Yeah.
Okay, so Jesus died in custody. Remember, he did. And remember when Peter, when they came to get Jesus at first, and Peter takes out his knife and he cuts the.
And then he cuts the. Yeah.
That's felonious assault against an officer.
Mm-hmm.
Paul,
and it's nice when
Paul spent most of his ministry in jail, and then you have John on all the Patmos. He was in prison too. So we got to get away from the whole thinking and that we're not supposed to get involved in policy and in the work of politics. And I said all that to say because it's the laws that cause and fuel mass incarceration. So that's my view on that.
And just to tie in what you said, because you spoke about love and the leadership, and for there's one statement you always say, and it's in one of your books. I want you to say it for our viewers and listeners. The one which ties in love and leadership. Yeah,
leaders who lead with love never lose. It's always a win-win, and we're in it to win it. Yeah, that's the thing I always say. And I truly believe that leaders who lead with love never lose. Now, for those who are believers that listen, we know that God is what?
God is love. Yeah.
So leaders who lead with God never lose. You understand?
Wow.
But love must be the thing that directs us and causes us to do the work, and that's part of the reason why I do the work that I do. It is the only reason why I do the work I do.
Wow. I did not see that part coming, because God is love, so leaders will lead with God. Wow. And it's always a win-win. That's a new one. That's a good one. And
how many books have you expound on? Yeah.
How many books have you authored so far?
2, and there's another one in me, but 2 right now. I have a YouTube channel where I've been placing a devotional, so it's a real-time devotion. And so my next steps is to take that devotional and those thoughts, my reflections of those thoughts, and then put into paper, for those who like to read and turn pages like myself, for those who have to just listen, that's why there's an audio version that's already, we started with audio. Usually you start with the print version and then go to audio, but basically I'm taking my reflections and then putting that into a body of work in motion. So the book is already done. It's on YouTube.
Okay. And any date we can expect the physical book to be out?
Well, that puts pressure on me to get it done by the end of the year. How about work towards the end of the year? So I'm working as a political consultant right now. That ends in November 8th. So, that gives me something to reach for. And I always talk about that to other people. You want to set benchmarks. You want to have goals. You want to have objectives, but you also want to make sure that they're time specific. And so thank you for making me place a time to something that I know I need to get done.
No, most definitely. I'll be looking forward to it, and then I'll look into it. And another question I had for you, like with all the work that you've done, and I think one of the key things that has been center of everything that you do is this power in connections, this power in association, this power in who you keep around, and it's very extremely important. Talk to us about that, about how this just ties into your whole life and what you've been through and where you are now. I mean, part of it was when you said that you actually left everything you were doing just entirely to go and and work with Phyllis on her campaign, and that's all part of she decided to associate with you, and eventually you are sacrificing your time for. So just walk us through that and how this impacted on your life.
Yeah, as the sun comes up again. So I think you can answer this as well. So I'm going to turn it on you, because one of the things that I respect about, our relationship and our bond, is we met 5+ years ago in Durban, South Africa. And, points are powerful, and we all have these points in our lives that are very impactful and meaning, but it's connection that makes it key. And I'm unapologetically an introvert. I don't have a lot of people around me. That's just who I've always been. So that when I am around individuals, for me, I must value something about the relationship. I must value something about what goals we're trying to accomplish, and it's a give and take.
Yep.
It's one-sided. And I think that's important, because who you surround yourself with and who you connect with, who I should say pledge allegiance with and to, is important, because it's contagious. The people you surround yourself with, it's contagious. If they're not ambitious, you're not going to be ambitious. If they're goal oriented, you're going to be gold. And we hear this all the time: iron sharpens iron.
Oh yeah.
And if you're iron and they're plastic, you already know what's going to happen.
It's going to be fire.
You're plastic and they're iron. It's just not going to work. And so it's just really important, because in those situations, you're going to hear things. And I say this quite often too: what you hear affects what you think, and what you think affects what you will do or what you'll become. So ultimately, we have to be careful of who we surround ourselves with, right? Because a lot of that is contagious.
Go over that statement again. I like it. What you said just now.
Which one? What you hear?
What you hear.
Yeah, what you hear affects what you think, and what you think affects what you will do or what you will become. So that's why, for me, it's important who I surround myself with, because, if I'm around negative people all day and I'm hearing negative thoughts all day, if I'm hearing what can't be done when God says it can be done, I want to be around people who are thinking positive, who are moving positive, who are doing great things, who or ambitious, because that's going to fuel me. If I'm around individuals who aren't those things, then either one or two things going to happen. Either you're going to pull them up, or they're going to drag you down. More than likely, they're going to drag you down.
Yeah.
Here's why. If there are more people needing you than feeding you, then you're bleeding you. Let me say that again. For the people in the back who may have missed it. If there are more people needing you than feeding you, then you're bleeding you. Ultimately, it's your responsibility. So you got to watch who you hang with. And, even though we may have good intentions, great intentions on trying to help others and to uplift others and to get them to a place where we are, sometimes we have to just surrender and realize that, this is too much work than it's worth. And I'm feeling drained, right? Yeah, because you do ministerial work, you worship, you praise, and think about it. If a church doesn't come in with heart and minds ready, prepared to praise, and you having to work and pump them up to praise the God that woke them up and gave them the ability of their limbs, that's too much work, and it starts to drain on you. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, as a worship leader, where you're doing more work, what I'm saying? And it starts to become draining on you. I don't know. Maybe it's different for maybe y'all can just go in and everybody's on one accord and you're not having to work.
You can actually feel it in the environment when the amount of pull that you're doing is not being reciprocated. You feel the weight on your shoulders. You're very right with that. That if in anything we do, if there's more taking from you than you take, I mean, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So it's extremely important. That's a very important point that you make there. That we, much as we want to help others, we have to make sure that we also feed, and it all goes back to the associations we have. And you actually reminded me of how we met, and I remember even for me to go to that event where we met, which was those who don't know, the Essence Festival. I think it was 2017, 2018, thereabout. And Darrin, you were down in South Africa, and for me to actually go there, it's a friend of mine who actually said, you know what, are you busy on this such a date? I got 2 extra tickets, come with me. And then I decided, okay, you know what, it's going to be beneficial, I'm going to gain something. So already that's one association that was beneficial, and if it was not for that, we wouldn't have met, and all the things that I've benefited from my association with you wouldn't have come to play, simply because that link would not have been there. Like all your morning motivations that you put up on social media, the books, the everything, all that wouldn't have happened if that initial meeting had not occurred. So it's association is something that is very important. Like I think there's a phrase which says, "Show me you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with."
Yeah, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah, exactly. and just out of curiosity, you mentioned show me your friends and I'll show you your future. How many, might be a personal question, you're free not to answer it. How many very close friends, or your close circle, how many people are in your very close circle?
Let me say this, the older I get, the smaller my circle becomes.
True.
That's important. And most of my people who are in my close friend circle, I don't talk to them every day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes not even every month, and sometimes not even every year. I would put you in that circle. I would put many people, and what's ironic, we shared this earlier. We had a conversation that we're not even in the same country. We're not in the same time zone. I think that's important for people to even hear right now. We're 7-hour difference right now. So it's early in the morning here whenever we talk, and it's later there.
Afternoon is like
we're not in the same season. You're coming out of winter, going into winter? I don't know. Coming out
of winter.
Yeah, so there's still this connection. And I have several people in South Africa like that, Vietnam, and several other countries around the world who are in my close circle. And like I said, I don't talk to them every day. And there are many other ones, too many to name, and I won't try to name them. And if they're listening to this and they're trying to figure it out, well, if I haven't talked to you in like 5 years, you may not be on that list.
That's true.
But so that, and sometimes it depends on the type and level of the relationship, because some people place me in their circle, but they may not be in my circle. And that's okay too.
That's okay.
Life is, and you never know who that is. But you know who your true friends are when you need them the most.